So, at this moment in time, I am still very, very much 90% sure Liz Truss is going to be our next Prime Minister. Now, you might say, why 90? Why not 100%? Well, I think it's fairly reasonable to leave that 10% for just you never know what's going to happen in a leadership race. I mean, Liz Truss might say something so monumentally stupid, it's possible, she's done it before, it could basically completely car crash her leadership race. Like, it could just completely crash it completely. It's possible. She could do it. Trust me, it's Liz Truss. It's entirely possible. But also there could be scandals. You don't really know. So there's always that air of there could be stuff happen. Liz Truss could have a really bad interview. She could say something monumentally stupid. Hence why it's 90%, not 100. And look, I'll agree with a lot of people if you want to say, oh, it's 100% Liz Truss. Yeah, but I'm leaving that 10% because you don't know what could happen in the next couple of weeks. Who knows? Maybe on Monday morning or even this coming weekend, a scandal breaks out and absolutely crashes her leadership vehicle. And, Rishi Sunak just goes racing ahead because all the Tory members are like, oh my God, why on earth were we about to vote for Liz Truss? What on earth were we thinking? I said with a somewhat, somewhat maybe giving maybe the Tory membership at least maybe a bit too much credit for maybe realizing why on earth are we going to put maybe someone who could be worse than Boris Johnson in charge. But today we're going to go over, I think, this very, very interesting piece because here you have someone who met Liz Truss, who worked with her very briefly during an encounter. And I think this encounter sheds a lot of light on what Liz Truss is like as a person and potentially what she could be like as a prime minister. And to be honest, it doesn't bode well. It really, really does not bode well. So before we go jumping into the article, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So over we go today to the New European with the title of What Happened When I Met Liz Truss. It shows she lacks the character to be Prime Minister. And of course, the person that we're talking about, I think he's here, Pauline. She's the other person with the spade just next to Liz Truss here. But yes, very, very revealing. So, anyway, she begins with, Liz Truss does not have what it takes to be Prime Minister. And Liz Truss is going to be the Prime Minister. Those two things are what I heard Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart agree on their The Rest is Politics podcast the other day. It was a discussion that reminded me forcibly of my own limited but very illuminating experience dealing with Truss. As we have seen with Boris Johnson, to his detriment, the character ultimately does matter in any position of leadership. What happened the only time Liz Truss and I were in close proximity makes me worry about hers. It should not have really been the only time I met her. In February of 2015, I was the Director General of the Tree Council, a UK charity launched in 1973, and Truss was the then Environmental Secretary. And her two very different predecessors, Caroline Spearman and Owen Paterson, had been very fastidious and unfulfillingly polite in their dealings with me. Back then, in May of 2010, David Cameron's coalition government had announced the launch of a national tree planting campaign, and I had seized the lead in developing the original concept that resulted in the targeting of a planting millions of trees in urban settings, bringing together the partners, designing, and the delivery strategy for what became the Big Tree Planting Campaign. As a result, I was invited to chair the cross-sector committee charged with ensuring that its success and the programme was duly launched in December of 2010. Both Caroline Spearman and Owen Paterson took a lively interest in the tree matters generally, understanding their importance to the broader environmental objectives and in the process of the campaign in particular. So, as chair, but also in my capacity as the tree health lead on DEFRA's Civil Society Advisory Group, I had regularly met and reported back to each of them. Liz Truss could have not have been more different. Trust me, it's about to get a lot worse. Trust me, what you're about to hear should make you worry in spades. It should absolutely make you worry in spades. And we thought Theresa May was the worst prime minister the UK had ever had. We thought Boris Johnson was the worst prime minister the UK has ever had. Well, oh boy, we ain't seen anything yet of Liz Truss. So here we go. Despite taking up her post several months before the big tree planting completion day, when the projected planning was on target and exceeding its aspirations, she had no interest in meeting and declined all opportunities to be personally briefed on the background, the processes or milestones reached. She showed no interest in receiving reports, although it was one of the successes of that administration. Of course, I understand that Secretaries of State have a lot of their agenda and have to prioritize, but it was strange that something which seemed to be a priority for her predecessors, as it had been then for Prime Minister David Cameron, suddenly went to the bottom of her inbox. I sensed a not intervened here outlook. She had been appointed so near its attainment, so perhaps she felt no ownership of the programme and was happy for me to see it through to completion, whilst she introduced her own fresh initiatives. So one of our first face-to-face meetings came on the day of that millionth tree was finally planted in a park in Bristol in February the 5th, 2015. Clearly, someone inside the government had told her that she could not say no to that one. National and regional media would be there in attendance, and local school children would help with the planting. A nice day, nice pictures, and a celebration of a government success story. Target set, target met. What was there not to like? This was to be the first time we were to be in the same place together, an opportunity for us to be introduced. I anticipated that we would now be able to celebrate the success together. Yet, it quickly became apparent to me that Liz Truss is someone who likes to take credit for work that is not hers, and shun those whose work it actually is. I see this as the worst quality a leader can have. As I've mentioned, she'd made no previous attempt to engage with me or even the steering group or the civil service delegate to support the event that was clearly embarrassed by this omission. Oh, you must come and meet her, he said, guiding me to where she was standing, talking to a member of the public. Truss showed no recognition of that we were even there. Fair enough. I was brought up not to interrupt other folks' conversation, so quietly stood to the side, awaiting the moment to introduce myself. Eventually, the civil servant wandered off to attend to other duties and left me there. Once the exchange ended, I looked directly at her, smiling, opening my mouth to draw a breath in, readiness for a moment of the exchange. But no, it was still not to be. Her mouth turned down, her brow burrowed, and her eyes slid across me. Turning on her heel, she quickly swept away before I could begin even to speak. She had been forced into an unlooked encounter and wasted no time in escaping. I can assure you, it was not mere vanity that felt a genuine shock that she was so rude or even dismissive, or that she had literally not said a word about the hard work that I and my team had put into making this pledge, unlike so many others by the government, become a reality. She appeared to have two main interests. One was to take the credit, and two, to get a nice pictures with the happy and attractive primary school children wielding the spades. Given that I am used to most people behaving very nicely towards each other, I found her rudeness on the day to be breathtaking. I thought I thought I was also asked to speak at the event. She quite literally ignored me, instead focusing all of her attentions on the media and the then Mayor of Bristol, George Ferguson, and Sir Harry Scoldham, the acting chair of the Forestry Commission. Her disdain for the contribution of the cross-party sector steering group that I had led, which had been fundamental in the delivery of the target, could not have been clearer. Her rudeness was such that I allowed myself even a mild feeling of satisfaction that her formal speech elicited boos from protesters who were present, whilst mine was very warmly received, though I suspect that plunged me further into Truss's deep freeze. When it came time to plant the tree, our closeness in the photographs were given the appearance of us to be on excellent terms, but there was no connection whatever. No small talk, no sense of teamwork, no desire to be anything other than the centre of attention. When I read Dominic Cummings saying of her that she had the eyes of a thousand-yard stare, I knew I'd had a personal experience of it. Had Caroline Spielman or even Owen Paterson still been in the post, I'm pretty sure there would have been a genuine warm words, genuine warmth in the photos, perhaps even a formal note of thanks. To even a paste in the Tree Council scrapbook, or even post on the website. But there was none of that from Liz Truss. I don't know what might have sparked her animosity, although I suspect it might be as simple as me being there was a reminder that she couldn't really take personal recognition of the achievements, although it didn't stop her trying. Of course, getting a warmer response than she did from the audience can't have done me any favours. In both of her actions and intentions, she displayed neither the character nor the empathetic qualities of a basic good manners that would reasonably expect from anyone in public service. My impression of her was one formed in this first and only meeting, and I have seen nothing since of her in the public profile she has grown to suggest that this was unfounded. In the words of Bernard in The Bard of Stafford, the good doctor himself, John Cooper Clarke, said, "Always judge a book by its cover. I have seen the cover, and I fear what lies inside could be even worse." And I really do think that says a thousand words. I think, the picture speaks a thousand words. I agree. You go through that encounter there. I think Pauline's right. I think it is. I think now you've read that and you can sort of get a more deeper sense of the picture of what sort of happened on the day. I'm not surprised. Liz Truss doesn't seem to be really warming to the person who took on the project, delivered it, and did an actual something successful for that administration. And I wouldn't be surprised if this continues. I wouldn't be surprised if there are other people out there who have very similar stories about this, about Liz Truss. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Will it make a difference? I doubt it. I very much doubt it. But the fact that she is so close to this position, and like I said, she's got a 90% chance of being the next prime minister. But as I've said before, the good news is probably November, everything is going to, well, not literally explode, but things are going to explode. All the crises are going to come together in a huge crescendo of disaster. And she is not going to be able to cope. She does not have any original ideas. She is a student of ideology of the current Tory party, meaning she is going to carry on with that ideology regardless, because if you've seen it in action, oh, that idea is not working. Well, it's not the problem. It's not the the solution, or what we're doing is the problem to fix it, or our solution to fix the problem is not the problem, or it isn't really doing anything to solve the problem. It's something else, because again, ideology, like most of these Tories, they're married to it. As far as they're concerned, their ideology should be working 100%, 10%. Unfortunately, we're getting someone like that again. And if you think Liz Truss is petty enough to act this way to someone like Liz, who generally actually delivered a project during the Cameron years, what do you think she's going to act on, the stage with other world leaders? But then again, following Boris Johnson, any prime minister would have a hard act to try and follow, to try and, remake some of those friendships. I think Liz Truss is going to even do a worse job. You had pictures of Boris being very, very much Billy No Mates at NATO meetings, at other meetings where he was basically outright ignored by the world leaders. I think the same thing is going to happen to Liz Truss. I think the same thing is going to happen to her. And oh boy, oh boy, all I can say is, guys, strap in. This is going to be one interesting roller coaster ride. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.